The next part that we're going to do is I'm going to cut the foam out to fill in the middle wall. So this is the foam that I'm using, and it's just standard, pink 3/4 inch foam. So I'll put this on the table, and then I'll get one of my sides. Put it on the foam. And then I'll trace out some sections that I will then cut and then fit into these holes. And once I'm done with that, I'll do the other side, and then I can glue the outer skin on and glue the foam in place. And at that particular point, we'll be ready to start on the inside skin. Actually, probably before that, I'll start on the doors. I'll do the doors first. But that's what's next. Okay, now that I got them cut out, what I'm going to do is I am going to number them so I know what hole they go in. Okay. Next thing to do is to cut the pieces out of the foam. After cutting out the front two, this seems to be the most effective way. Use the section here, this wall, as the template that you cut from. Now, one of the things that it will do is, I'll show you in just a second. So basically take your knife, lengthen it out, and cut. And one more cut. I'll cut some more out and then pop them all out together. Cutting foam is kind of nasty work. So you can see how it comes out. You're going to want to try and get them as tight as possible. What you don't want is, once you have all those sides together and you're camping and whatnot, you don't want there to be any kind of condensation inside in the void. So you try to get them as tight as possible, so they won't do that. I'll cut out the rest of them and be back. Okay, I got all my pieces cut out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this section, this middle wall, back up onto the workbench. Alright. And we'll start with this one, so you'll just basically see how this works. So this is the panel that goes in here. So it doesn't fit, because when you cut it out like this, the knife blade tends to angle out like this, so it makes it wider. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to trim it. Now, one of the things that you do with this stuff is there is a plastic film on either side. So I want to tear that film off. It probably would have been a good thing to do this before I started cutting it all because it makes it tougher. But the reason I want to take this film off is because it's hard to glue to. And I am going to be gluing these in and then gluing another panel on top of them. Just make sure you got the orientation correct and remark it. Number 1. Now that'll make it easier to cut as well. So I just kind of trim like that. Okay, and this side is also needs a little trim. Not taking off much, just kind of taking the angle off. Looks like this does too. I've heard of some people using like electric bread knives and things like that. I think that would probably work pretty well. I think no matter what you use, it's pretty messy stuff. Puts little foam crumbs all over the place, which then stick to everything and you can't get them to vacuum up or anything. It's really a pain. There we go. So see how that fits in there? This one is actually a little bit looser than I would like, but it's okay. I'll go ahead and fill those in with some expanding foam. But that fits flush. It's 3/4 of an inch. There'll be a plywood on the back and there'll be plywood on this side, so that particular foam block is done. Also, what I'll be doing is in some of these areas, I will be running wiring through the foam as well and drilling through. But that's a little ways down the line. So that's how it's done, and I will go ahead and fill the rest of these. Okay, now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I will pop them out again, but I'm making sure that I've got everything marked. I know exactly which side they go on and which hole they go in, and I'll take those all out, put them aside for later. Then I'm going to take the outer walls, put them underneath this middle wall, mark everything out, and then get ready to glue. So we're lining up good along here, and in the front, I'll bring the camera around so you can see what I'm talking about. So in the front you can see where I've cut here's the outside wall. You can see where that middle wall is going to be. So like I demonstrated before, this will have 1x2 spars. There will also be an inner wall of plywood like that. So you have an inner wall of plywood that forms the ceiling of the inside, and then these spars will go against that, and then you can see there's a bearing surface for the roof system to sit on top of, and all of this in here will all be insulation. So hopefully that makes sense now. So the reason I did this is so I would have something to be able to put this onto, drop that. I'm using the inside out building method by Steve Frederick, and I think that's probably the easiest one rather than trying to put the roof system on first and then try and put the ceiling on once the thing is built. It makes it a little more difficult. So, okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and mark everything out and get ready for gluing. Another thing that you'll notice is here is that bottom segment that I cut with the circular saw. I put some little braces here to hold it on. I got some of my cuts a little bit close, and so therefore it wasn't as strong as I wanted to. So I went ahead and just screwed some temporary braces in here. And you can see how this is important because I line up my outer wall here along the bottom so that gets everything set correctly. When I go to assemble this, this will be taken off. This section will be taken off. And there will be actually a floor that sits in here. And so this will sit on the floor, and then there'll be screws that go in from here, or actually go in from the outside into this floor. But this gives me a good surface to index against. And it appears that everything is pretty well lined up. So what I'll do is I'm just going to mark these holes just at the door. These won't be cut out. The reason I'm marking them is because I know I don't want glue when I glue the side panels on. I don't want glue in this part until I'm ready to put the insulation in, which I'll do after the side panel's been glued. But I'll put glue everywhere else. Try and get a pretty good bond. I'm probably not going to glue up today. I'm going to go get some, I think my plan is I'm going to go get some sandbags and use those as the clamping system, just to clamp this thing down. There's a fair amount of clamping like that I'm going to have to do, and so I think those sandbags will be useful, and I'll be able to use them for something else around here as well. I've also seen some people use gallon jugs, kitty litter containers filled with water, all those kind of things, and I may use some of that as well. But I think I'll probably, my main clamping will be sandbags and possibly some kind of homemade bow clamps that I can put across some of these long sections. So that's all marked out. I'm going to go ahead and mark this as well. Move the camera here. Take this frame off. And here's my panel all marked up. Everywhere where you see here, everywhere in between all these, that will have glue, and we'll glue it all together. That's it.